I'm really excited to re-enter the Euphoria world. These episodes are much different than the first season. We're kind of hearing the most from Jules that we ever have before on gender and sexuality.
I like the idea of going back through the whole history of our show, but from Jules's perspective. After I had written the first episode, I got on the phone with Hunter and we started talking, and all of these ideas started to pour out.
Sam and I had already played around a little bit with writing together, like coming up with ideas. We decided to tackle some of the actual issues she'd been dealing with in season 1, and then also just some broader spirals that feels very personal to me.
One of the very special things about this second episode is the fact that we get to see a lot of season 1 and a lot of moments between Rue and Jules through Jules' eyes. Jules was dealing with a lot of other things that Rue didn't know about and that us as an audience didn't know about. There was, I feel like, a lack of empathy and understanding for her side of the story.
Because I do feel so deeply connected to her, she becomes a bit of a vehicle for me to express some of my personal stuff and turn this episode into a processing moment as far as, obviously being in therapy. I take that back. I don't want to talk about my mom.
I promise you, I have no agenda. We can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about.
And, I think I really want to go off my hormones. I definitely felt a little complicated at first about having Jules kind of really elaborate on where she's at with gender and sexuality. If I've learned anything from being trans for my whole life, it's that, that spiral kind of never stops. Femininity would always be this elusive, distant thing, I think I was at around her age when I started to understand that transitioning wasn't this point A to point B sequence.
It's something that Hunter and I have talked a lot about, is that Jules is looking at herself and her gender and her evolution as a person through a philosophical lens as opposed to a political one.
I've always thought of puberty as like a broadening or a deepening or like a thickening. I came back to LA for this and I was like, I don't want to be sitting in my hotel room for 2 weeks while we wait to shoot this. Sam was like, all right, come and help us.
Hunter's been involved in every step of the process, from the work that Marcel and I do, shot listing and storyboarding and writing. Hunter's been a part of all of that.
I've treated it a lot kind of like shadowing Sam and Marcel doing all their sort of pre-production things, which has been such a huge learning experience.
What's exciting about it is she comes at it from the perspective of an artist, of someone who paints, who draws.
I'm a visual thinker, which is also why I didn't think I would ever be something like a writer. Words are just harder for me than like visual languages. And so I would make like paintings or drawings or sketches of how I might have seen a scene or something.
I wanted to capture as much of Hunter's spirit as possible for this episode because she's infectious as a creative being, and having this sort of collision of ideas was just a really exciting opportunity.
Moving here, it's been really hard. A bunch of all happened at once and I just freaked out. Like I panicked and I felt like if I didn't get out, I was gonna die.
Jules was dealing with a lot, and Rue was not helping with that. I think it was important that people understand what Jules was actually going through.
I think the fallout of Rue and Jules at the train station was sort of a lot of things happening at once, and that it was a breaking up-ish moment for the pair. And we also find out in this episode that Jules had been dealing with a bunch of with her mom and her family.
She's been clean for 9 months.
I'm allowed to be skeptical. And she couldn't talk to Rue about that.
There was aspects of her relationship with Rue that mirrored her relationship with her mother, and that were unhealthy in the same ways that her relationship with her mother were unhealthy. Understanding the real weight and burden that Rue places on her as an addict.
At the same time, though, I'm like really angry at Rue. I feel like her sobriety is like completely dependent on how available I am to her.
They offer a lot of beautiful things to each other, but they also offer a lot of not so beautiful things to each other. There's a lot of toxicity there as well. But that doesn't erase the real, raw, just pure love that they have for each other.
I think it didn't feel like Rue was projecting anything onto her. I think it felt like they could just be present with each other and just feel seen. There were so many times I wanted to kiss her.
I love these two characters. I love Rue and Jules, and that's kind of what the episode explores, is Jules' real, true love for Rue that we may not have fully understood or comprehended last season. I think that with any show, the key to it is evolving and growing and letting it take on new forms. I don't want to feel like this show ever gets into a rhythm that's expected. The possibilities of this show can be endless. And so if we're gonna take on Jules' perspective and we're gonna be with her, then that's what we're gonna do.
I really love these episodes because they're sort of detached from the structure that season 1 took on, and I'm sure that will influence the way season 2 takes shape.
It's just nice to take our time with these characters. I mean, I don't really know what season 2 is gonna look like, but I do think that we were all very inspired by what was done here.
These episodes open up new possibilities for the future of the show and how we can all grow with it together.